Right, so Joel gave me the title, Challenging Business Convention in a Social World. That was all right. I've picked a different title, and we'll come on to why later on, but I kind of figured Turdy brown trousers might be a little bit more interesting for this pre-lunch slot. So we'll start with a question. How many people own a pair of brown trousers? Okay. I'm prepared to put my hand up, slightly reluctantly, but I'll do it. There are a pair of chinos in my wardrobe. So chinos count, sand-colored jeans, trouser suits. There, we've got some hands coming up. Okay, good. Thank God for that. There's quite a few hands going up. So quite a lot, actually. It's a popular color, brown. Beige, even more popular, but you know, generically, brown is a popular color. So there's a reason for that. You know, on the plus side, brown is the color of stability, reliability, approachability. Come in for a coffee. What color would you like it? A nice brown cup of coffee. Brown. Okay, good. There's some good reasons. Designers and tree huggers will tell you that it's also elemental. It's at the root of our very being. Earthy. Represents core strength. Brown. Strong. Fantastic. However, it's also the color of turd. So here is a brown wall with a turd on it. We'll be coming back to it later, but, you know, the brown wall of turd, just bear it in mind for now. So the next question, the next logical question in my mind, how many people are wearing brown trousers today in the room? Anyone? I can see 2. Okay, 3. Not many. That worked as well then. Good. Not many people wearing brown trousers in the room. That's also, dare I say, sorry to the 3 people, and you know, I'm not trying to offend, but perhaps brown beige is a little bit average, the color of boring in street speak, which I'm accustomed to. It's the color of meh. Okay? So, despite being the most popular color in the world, and it is, fact, brown isn't really business. You know, we're not all here today wearing brown. We're a little bit reluctant to do that. Now, we could introduce a whole world of B2B trouser excitement. I know for a fact that Joel has these very trousers in his wardrobe, and he wears them every Saturday. But we don't. We default to something safer, something we feel a bit more comfortable with for business, a whole other category of dull for business, the handshake, Steve's point. Okay, now we're aware of this, and we do try to push the boundaries in marketing because it's creative, and sometimes we feel like we're going a little bit crazy. We feel like we're challenging the organization and pushing the boat out a bit, and hey, yeah, look at me, okay? I am wearing jeans and I don't even have a tie on. And that feels like we're going crazy. But we're not really, okay, because this is proper crazy. Okay, so we think we're moving forward, but we're not really going the whole way. We try to be crazy, but in B2B, we only really get halfway. So yeah, you know, we'll do the jeans. Shit, I've got to wear a jacket, okay? I can't go the whole way. On a really crazy day in B2B, what do? We untuck our shirts. Okay, can you feel it now? Can you see where I'm going with this? So all we really have to do is change a couple of words in what I've been talking about, brown trousers, and change that to one word, digital. Change it to another word, social, or what the hell, have both of them. And the challenge for B2B in the digital and social space becomes a little clearer. We find it hard in business to embrace the opportunities that we're being presented with in the digital space. The previous presenters have made the point already. Staff, customers, prospects, they're the ones that are going digital crazy. But the organizations, they're not doing it. The business response to the digital revolution isn't quite working. We're trying, but no matter how hard we try, it's not a good look, right? those brown hues just aren't working for us properly. So the challenge for business is to keep up with the customers. So the customers in their grey suits are going crazy doing the conga, and we're trying to communicate with them in a different way now. In the old days, in the old digital days even, we'd use email. You know, this was the traditional method of communication. We'd send them an email, and when we found more recently that that doesn't work quite so well, our response has been, send them more. Okay? That's really not working so well either. Because of the social wall that has been built in the last few years. Now, do you remember the wall? We've talked about the wall, okay? The big brown turdy wall. There it is, it's back. And no matter which channel you're trying to use, what businesses need to start to identify is the wall has been built to stop those communications working effectively. All the action's happening the other side of that big brown wall. So whether it's email or your website, e-commerce transactions, telephone marketing, all of the traditional channels of communication are being blocked to some degree by the social activity within communities and networks. We're talking to each other about the things that we're interested in rather than have the company talk to us. It's a big difference, a big change. So, okay, what have we done? You know, we're aware of it. What have we done about it in the last couple of years? Well, you know, we've untucked our shirts, great. And we've focused on the one tool that we know and are very familiar with, which is the corporate website. And we made it bigger. Okay, that's the business answer to social media is build a bigger website. Or make it a bit different. Yay. I should check that. So let's have another question. Just let me check. Who in the room has changed or added to their corporate website in the last 12 months, or maybe plans to change it in the next 12 months? You know, you were going, yeah, everyone, okay. You were going crazy, you posted a blog, fantastic, well done. Okay, so almost everyone, that's to be expected. There's a problem with that, though. It's the big brown wall of turd again. Okay, because the website is one of the things that the wall blocks. People aren't visiting websites in the way that they used to. They're not that interested. They've got their own conversation going on. And it doesn't matter. Even if you make it bigger, the social wall is still a barrier. This is a slide from Cisco. Came from Wired magazine. It started quite a discussion. It's about a year old. Okay, so we've known this for a while. I'm not going to take you through the whole slide. The important point is the web is dead. That was the name of the associated article. It's a fairly radical statement. And I think we should clarify that by saying the internet by no means is dead. Clearly, the internet is growing every day. We'll talk about that in a second. But the way we use websites, and our interest here is business websites, has changed significantly. In fact, websites started dying in 2000. Over 10 years ago, over a decade ago, that the red slope sliding off there is the volume of data being transmitted across websites. It's falling away, and it's falling away sharply. And you can see in the purple and the pink there that it's peer-to-peer, in other words, social and video data that is growing. Those are the social channels. That's how we're communicating now. What's happening, what we're seeing in that slide from Cisco is that audience adoption of social media is forcing businesses to change. We don't like it, we didn't necessarily want it, it's happening, and we're being forced to change. So we're finding a different model now where we're going from the central corporate hub, your website, where you push messages out through whichever sales channel it is, but via the website, into a pull strategy. And you now, in order to engage your audience on your website, you have to pull them from the social channels, from the other side of the social wall that we've been talking about. And you can't do it from your website, okay? You have to pull them from being active within the social channels. And that's where businesses are struggling. You turn those arrows around, and it's no longer a question of focusing on the website in order to attract traffic. It's about getting out into the channels and using them to draw people in, to draw the communities into your own website. But while you've all been focusing on your website and making it bigger, the customers are ignoring you. And they'll continue to ignore you and increasingly ignore you. Because the difference now, and you're going to love what I did here, look at this. The customers love being social. Okay, that's what they want. It's not about what you want anymore. It's about what they want and how they're going to engage. And your website is out on the sidelines. So, okay, we've tried. Okay, we've tried to do social. We're trying to do social. Businesses are trying. So yeah, all right. I know you've got a corporate Twitter account, but you know, do you really know what to do with it? Not really. No. Yeah, you've tried video. You know, we know video's growing, and YouTube. Woo! What are we going to put on there? Probably something inappropriate like this. And some people, bless them, have even discovered that there's more to LinkedIn than finding a new job. Well, of course there is, great. But that's not committing to the social space. The problem is the customers are moving, customers, prospects, fans are moving much quicker than the businesses are able to keep up. This is a chart showing, it's a fairly well-known chart showing social channels, social tools. I wanted to give you some stats here, but I wanted to avoid all the obvious ones about Facebook being the third biggest country in the world by equivalent population and so on. So I've tried to pick a few other ones. There are now over 8,000 social channels. So while some of you will be sitting there smug going, yeah, well, we've got social. we know social. You know, we've done LinkedIn. You know, we've got a website, we're blogging, Sir's blogging now, you know, we've got it covered. Are you across 8,000 channels? Probably not. I'm not saying you should be. I'm not saying you need to be. But there's more to this than Twitter and LinkedIn. It's time to move it forward. Mobile commerce. Most of the websites that I've been visiting in the B2B space aren't even optimized for mobile yet. It's not difficult, but we just need to think about how we're consuming data, how our audiences are using data now. We're not sitting at our desks, on our desktops, for hours on end visiting corporate websites. We're picking up packets of information on the move, on our mobile phones, on our laptops at airports, in the 10 minutes that we've got before the train leaves. And yet, we're still not optimizing business websites for that kind of consumption. Why? 938 changes to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn since the beginning of the year. So to be active in these spaces and to develop content for them, you have to be able to maintain them. Well, if you're maintaining them, you've now got 938 updates to make in the course of the year. And are you resourcing your teams? Are you resourcing your marketing teams effectively to be able to maintain the content that you're producing for the core channels that you're operating in? Probably not. 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years. 90% of the world's data in the last 2 years. You know, that's a huge amount. That, I hope, gives you some indication of the scale that we're developing in digital and the speed at which the customer base, the user base around you is growing. And compare that to the speed that you're developing your social and digital strategies internally. Does it help us buy? You know, we still deal with the thorny issue of ROI. Well, we know now that 28% of buying decisions are influenced by social networks. So people, already a third of people are talking within their social networks about what they should buy, where from, who from, how, why, and so on. Are we taking advantage of that? And what's the point? Why am I telling you this? Well, for all the social channels that are being built, the conversations that I have most of the time are companies telling me that they're waiting. Yeah, they're listening. Okay, we've heard a lot about listening today. Very few are actually diving in and committing to the channel properly. And every day, not every month or week or year, every day that you say, well, we're listening and we're waiting and we're just going to wait and see how it goes and check it out, see what our competitors do, make sure it's right for the company. All of those conversations, every day that you do that, another 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created. I have no clue what a quintillion is. It's clearly a lot. And that's happening every day, and you're waiting for something else to happen. Well, it's too late. Okay? These are the lines I hear when I'm talking to people in my daily travels. We're not sure of the relevance for our audience, for our market. You are dead. You may as well get in the bath now and plug the toaster in. We are interested in this. We think social media has a place, but we're not sure what the first step is. So we're certainly not going to commit to everything, but could you ease us in gently? Could you tell us what the first step is? You are dead. We're planning to allocate some of our budget to social media. You're dead. And the traditional measures. How does this impact my bottom line? What are the traditional measures? How do I track leads? You are all dead. Some people are trying it. Scion, inspiring, frankly. You might get through. Okay? The people that are already actively involved and growing their presence in this space might live to tell the tale. It's going to be messy. It's a bit squashed, but hey, we'll get there. What do you need to do now? Well, social media needs to become the fabric of all marketing activity. Do you see what I did with fabric there? I thought that was quite good. My core message to you today is that your entire marketing plan now needs to be socialized. That's quite a contentious point, I think, so I felt I needed to qualify it. Not all marketing is social media, but everything you do from now on needs to be considered in a social context. Actually starting to understand what the customer wants, what their journey is to and with your brand is more important than you pushing out a single corporate message. Allowing online engagement offline and vice versa. So there will always, I expect, be offline communication of brands, but actually creating offline communication that leads to a better customer experience online where they operate most of the time is what you need to be thinking about. Encouraging advocates and not customers. We hear a lot about customer focus and the customer is king. And maintaining customer relationships. And yes, sure. But in this space, finding advocates that will generate customers is more important, to amplify the brand, to find fans, people that like what you do. They may never be your customer, but rather than you pushing messages out, they'll do the messaging for you. They'll tell their friends, they'll tell their networks, and the sales will come from that. So encourage those advocates, find them, encourage them, incentivize them, help them, give them content that they can use and repurpose. Personality trumps protocol. We talked about the ginger-haired person. Steve talked about the handshake and the business suit and the people staring at monitors. It was bad enough before. In a social space, a lot of that can be taken away, and you're left with text, a tweet. What are you going to do? What is the voice? Because if it's the same, or if it's the existing and old corporate voice, where you had the luxury of just being able to bang a corporate drum, well, that was fine then. It's no longer fine. You've got to get behind this wall. You need a personality. Have you got one? Does your brand have one? Have you enabled your staff to communicate in the same way? Do they know what the personality is? Create experiences, not sales pitches. Okay, we're trying to create something different now. The experience for the customer to participate with the brand rather than just read your white paper. The next stage along, and I don't want to dwell too long on this, but you may have heard of gamification. Okay, can I just check? Are people familiar with gamification now? Show of hands. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, so not too bad. Controversial, apparently, in B2B. Well, what does that mean? What's it all about? Will it ever work? But the idea of bringing gameplay into business communications, currently being heralded as a complete waste of time, to me, it's the next logical step. You could be doing it already, but you're not ready on the first stages yet, so how can we get onto this? But the idea that advocates of your brand want to participate to help you if you enable them to. So you create games. They don't want rewards, they don't necessarily want money or products, but they want to be part of the experience. Coming from gameplay, being able to collect points, achieve the next level, be identified as a prestige partner of some description just for being part of the brand. That's the kind of thing that brings people back and keeps them interested because they get respect and build their own reputation around your brand. Allow them to do it. Enable social fans to sell for you. So, okay, what happens now? You know, you're here today, we're getting close to lunch. I'm already thinking about beer. I don't know what stage you're at. This afternoon, you'll hear some more presentations from the great and the good from the B2B. You'll go back to your office, and very little will happen. I know that because I've told you this stuff before, and very little's happened. So I needed to find something else this time to go, look, here's what I'm going to do, and maybe offer some basic insight as to what you could be doing at day one. You know, base camp 1, do these things. So under the old current model, the old or current model, I should say, I'd make a presentation, and that'd be it. The slide deck would disappear, you'd all go home, and that'd be it. Maybe if I was feeling ambitious, I might write it up. I might write a white paper, and I'd send that out to, I'd post it on our website. It's a download. You can have it. I want your email address first, but you know, you can have it. You can download it, and I'd email it to our prospect database, customer and prospect database. I reckon I'd get to about 100 people. In a short space of time, I could hit 100 pretty quickly. They'd be pretty well targeted. You know, I'd know who they were, and you know, maybe there'd be some interest there. But that's not what we're going to do anymore. So why did I change Joel's title from The Challenge of Business Convention in a Social World to Turdy Brown Trousers? It's because I want to do something else with it now. In a social world, no one's got the time to read a white paper on the challenge of business convention in a social world. Will they dip into a deck called Turdy Brown Trousers on their way to the train or while they're on the train? Yeah, they probably will. I would. Okay? So let's cascade that model for a second. Let's take the content out of this presentation and make sure it's searchable. So, you know, we'll get the tags sorted out and we'll make sure people can find it. Great. And what am I going to do with it after that? Well, you know, today or tomorrow, I'm going to tweet it. In fact, it's probably already happening. People are going to be talking about this. So we'll tweet it out, and you know, businesses stop at that point. They go, okay, I sent a tweet, and they're expecting something to happen. You know, well, we didn't sell anything, so I'm not going to do it anymore. But Twitter itself is a strategy that you have to think about more widely. So basic example, I'm going to use B2B marketing. You know, it's part of the conference. We'll reciprocate. They have a community of their own. I want to interact with it, so I'll be expecting some help from them on the content of this presentation. I'll pick out some people I know. You know, there's Skemo, right? Looking, well, old. Joel's there. You know, I'll pick out a few people that I can say, hey guys, look, I did this thing. It's called Turdy Brown Trousers. It's hysterical. Tell your friends, and they probably will. They know me well enough. I have my own Twitter following. I'll be doing it there as well. You'll find me saying, hey, look, I wrote this thing. You might be interested in it. And all these communities are interested. They're self-selecting in terms of how they find the content and the material. There's a Birddog corporate Twitter feed. We'll be using that as well. And unlike many companies, we enable staff to tweet about their own lives and corporate issues as well, during working hours, shockingly enough. So I'll be using them and expecting them to help with this as well. And my point is that those horizontal lines that you can see on the diagram are far more important than the vertical ones. Okay, so we're creating content, but then we're enabling multiple networks to interact with each other, talk about the content, and spread the word, spread the good Turdy Brown word around the world. Okay, we get wider reach that way. You may not have noticed it as I'm talking, but you may notice it on reflection, that I've constructed this deck so that it's great that I'm here and I'm able to talk to you, but I don't have to be here. So just the way you write presentation decks, constructing them so that they run on their own. So when I'm not here, this deck will run and have the message contained in it without any presenter talking about it. That'll bring the world a bit closer still. You'll have noticed that I'm wearing 2 microphones. Okay? That's how important I am. One for Joel, but one for me, because I recognize that my community don't always have the time to be sitting next to a laptop or have online access and so on. But I can create an audio podcast of what I'm seeing, of what I'm saying. So when they can't see it, they can hear it. And they choose how they want to consume the content that I'm producing. And that extends my reach even further. And of course, there's video. There's a red light at the back there, man taking my picture, and this will be content that can be used across the world. I put LinkedIn on there specifically. We need to think creatively about how we use these tools. Everyone says YouTube. Vimeo is the other popular one. B2B marketing have got their own video channel, but LinkedIn now enable video. It's a great opportunity, a massive reach. Why aren't we putting our videos on LinkedIn? We should be. Yes, okay, I'll also put it on the website, and I'll email it out to the 100 people that we were talking about. Okay, so everyone's happy still. We haven't gone too crazy. If we do that right, I reckon that we're going to create a Turdy Brown global phenomenon. It could happen. By this time next year, you're all going to be turning up Turdy Brown and untucked. Okay, that's my prediction. Not. What does that mean? How do we make this real? Well, okay, I reckon 100 people is how I would have reached, how many people I would have reached through the traditional model. It's kind of small, so I thought I'd point it out. There they are, the 100. We're using social monitoring tools. We know how far our words travel, how deep into the industry they go. In the first 24 hours of me releasing this deck, 100,000 people will have tuned into it in one way or another. If we extend the network, if B2B and the other channels that I told you about put their shoulder behind it as well, we could easily double that, so we're at 200,000. And that, again, would be within 24 hours. Within a week, I reckon we've got to 500,000 people around the world. Now, I'm not going to pretend that they are all my target customer, but I'm allowing them to decide. They know where to find me, they know what I've got to say. Here I am. Come and talk to me. It's not free. I have conversations where people go, well, Twitter account. We can set up a Twitter account by ourselves and it's free. We used to hear that about PR being free. It's not free. The investment you need to make in commentary, social commentary, response management, community development to make these things happen is significant. The point I'm making is you're not making enough of a commitment to this channel at the moment. Seeding and syndication and aggregation, that is what gives you reach into the community. Increased reach increases your brand amplification. Brand amplification equals sales, ultimately. There's a big difference in the social world, and you need to be aware of it. It's the main obstacle that certainly the larger corporates struggle with, which is ownership at this point changes hands. As soon as you hit the send button on a piece of content that you're sending out into the social network, it's no longer yours, and you have to be comfortable with that. Okay, at that point, it belongs to the crowd. They can be a favorable crowd or not, but either way, you have to be able to let it go. And if that's the case, you're enabling the audience to become part of your brand. It's not about you pushing your brand at them anymore. They're part of the experience. They build it for you. They want to be associated with your content. They want to participate. They want to share with their friends and their own networks. Let them do it. When brand support is high, sales are the inevitable consequence. It can only work that way. So while letting go still scares the majority of businesses, that's okay. Take your time. Your competitors have the opportunity. Those first will get the opportunity because they're being braver. Okay? That's James Farmer on a Saturday afternoon. Okay, this will happen. This is happening. If we compare the consumer space to business, we're still way behind. You will need to do this whenever you're ready. So to end at the beginning, takeaways. What are you going to do when you go away? Think about engaging content creation. You are now all content creators. Okay? What's more interesting? Do that. Distributable content for social networks. Producing things that people can share, not locking them down in your website or hiding them away or demanding exchange of data in order to release information. Let them have it and let them use it. Cross-channel sharing, being able to use multiple channels in order to communicate the same message. Message amplification, using your networks and their networks to amplify your message. And customer engagement, keeping them happy, making them want to be part of this. Okay, if you get it right, you win a t-shirt. It's a brown t-shirt, and that is the color of social success. If you leave it too late, you will be left behind. You will be the old men and women of B2B, and the color of social failure is also brown. You know who you are. You don't need me to point you out, I'm sure. I've told you this before, and I'm telling you it again. It's going to happen, but it comes from further back than just me. So I've used Winston Churchill here. I cannot pretend to feel impartial about colors. I rejoice in the brilliant ones. I'm genuinely sorry for the poor browns. Try and keep up. Please keep in touch with me. I am increasingly social and keen to hear your views.